My Voice is a chance for those who have struggled with addiction, homelessness, depression, and domestic violence to have a candid conversation about their life experience, current situation, and future goals and aspirations. Every episode is conducted anonymously to facilitate a comfortable and safe place for guests to tell their story. My Voice is hosted by Mike Sisson, who works as a case manager at the My House facilities in Wasilla, Alaska. We now join a My Voice conversation, already in progress.
My first question for you is, do you think the moon landing was real or fake?
I'm definitely going to go with real.
Okay. Do you have reasons as to why you believe it was real?
Science?
Okay.
No, I mean, I feel like human beings have the capacity to do great things, and it was really a competition. And so America doesn't play games. We're just like, all right, we're going to get there. We're going to get it done.
I dig that. Yeah, I figured it was a fun question to start with because maybe it's just my particular friend group, but they tend to just really get deeply involved in conspiracy theories.
That's fun.
And
There's always a little bit of truth in conspiracy theories, though.
Very true. I agree. Well, I say very true, of course, because it's my opinion, and I agree with you. So, of course, I would say it's true. But no, it's fun. Like a lot of guys I've talked to have said it was done in a Hollywood studio somewhere, and there's all these reasons as to why, and it's more fun to listen to answers. So, I guess what I'll start with is why don't you tell us where you're from? Like, you born in Alaska? Were you born out of state? And I'll just let you take it away.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was born in Palmer at the old hospital. I've lived in the Mat-Su for my whole life. I've lived in Wasilla, lived in North Pole for a little bit. Very warm and wonderful summers. Wow. And then winter comes. It is extremely cold and harsh. So I came back here. This is my place.
Nice. I've never been to the North Pole, I have to say. I've been a lot of places in Alaska, not the North Pole. Is there like a must-do when you're in the North Pole, like anything that you have to do?
Well, I mean, it's not like the northern North Pole. It's like the town North Pole. I mean, Santa's there. So you can always go to Santa's house, Chena Hot Springs. There's some nice hunting spots, just little trails you can go down. Fairbanks is right there. You can go to the museum, go to the college, just kind of walk around. It's kind of like a small knit community. So.
You know what? I just realized I have been there. I went there last year with my wife and my kids. Yeah. As soon as you said Santa's there, I was like, oh, that's right. She's not talking about the literal North Pole. She's talking about the city by Fairbanks.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got like all the little stripes on the light poles that make it look like candy canes. It's great. It's fantastic for tourism. It's a very small town with some interesting folks. You have to be interesting to live in these kinds of environments with cold and darkness all the time.
Definitely. Me and my wife did a little mini getaway to Fairbanks one time, and we stayed there, and I realized very quickly that Fairbanks in the wintertime is a really boring place for me.
It's great if there's an event. You hang out for a few days. I always go to Chena. That's my favorite. Just soak, hang out. But, I mean, it's kind of like a small little city.
Yeah, definitely. So then my next question, so you're an Alaskan, born and raised. That's really cool. I understand at some point you were a client of My House previously, correct?
Yeah.
What led you to that position where you walked through the front doors for the first time?
Whew. It's been a long, long journey. So I actually, I started with Michelle being my graduation coach. So it was before My House was really started. It was just a hallway in Burchell, and you could get clothes, you could get snacks, you could get shower stuff, go get snacks in the morning before school. And I mean, Michelle was always there to coach you where you needed to be. And a lot of my connection has been with Michelle, just because she was my graduation coach, and then I graduated from high school and she started My House, and I navigated through a lot of difficult things and kind of ended back up here where I had left Fairbanks or North Pole and come back down here and had I had just lost my son. I had a daughter. I had nowhere to go. I had no job, and it was just a terrifying time. So I guess that's really, in 2015 is really when I started as a client in my house.
Wow. You know, I really enjoy that I didn't get a backstory on you at all, because I get to kind of react and respond in the moment to you sharing your story. I mean, you just glided over that with such class, like, and confidence. It is obvious by the way that you just kind of glazed over it that you have come a long way to just be able to reference it like that.
Yeah, it was a very, very difficult journey, and it took a lot of healing. And I am very confident that I would be nowhere near where I am right now if it wasn't for, I really say Michelle, but it was a whole team effort. But she's the one that, created a place where people could overcome their trauma and poverty and, be in places of authority and leadership within our communities and be economically stable and have a life worth living.
Wow. We're going to go back to that in just a minute.
Yeah.
What do you currently do for employment?
So currently I'm a technical support trainer. So I train people in technical support. Anytime that you have any issues with your internet or issues with your computer or anything like that, you can give us a call. And I train people how to be friendly and also be tech savvy.
Cool. Well, definitely a good fit for you. You can definitely tell that you're good at talking to people just in the couple of short minutes we've been speaking so far.
Yeah.
So now let's go back. So 2015, you came back here,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, were you already a client? Was it like the formal intake process, or you just came and you're like, Michelle, I need help?
I mean, it was really, there were like a lot of years of trauma, so it's kind of hard to recall. I mean, in 2012 is when I started. I was in high school, and I was pregnant with my daughter. Her dad was in active addiction, and I just like lived in the van, couch surfed kind of until I ended up through the state of Alaska. You are legally emancipated when you get pregnant, and so you can get assistance. So that was really when I was able to take care of myself, because I didn't, have parents to sign up on a work permit or anything like that. So I couldn't legally work, couldn't legally sign a lease, couldn't really do anything until I became pregnant. That's a loophole to get out of that, which was not my intention. I didn't get
right.
pregnant
No,
to do that.
like it.
But I was able to get public assistance. I worked at Wendy's, went through that, was able to get out on my own, and tried to work things out with my child's father. And he was a heroin addict, and it's really hard when you do opioids to just be able to let it go. It's like a lifelong battle. And so in 2015, I found out that I had cervical cancer, and he was sober. We were living together in North Pole. Everything was working. And it just all fell apart. Like, that was too much stress to handle. And then, of course, I ended up miscarrying, and that was just added to it. So it was a lot of trauma. It was crazy. And it was like my heart's racing even thinking about it, because, I don't think about it. I don't talk about it because it was hard. It's a hard time in life. And I made the decision to leave, to come back here, because he was dealing drugs and just being crazy. And it was, I was still trying to work and navigate, like, what kind of surgeries do we do? What kind of treatments do we need to do? It was a not great time in my life. It kind of sucked. I came back here, and I was just a hot mess. I was a hot mess. And that's really, like, I would say that's when I started as a client here.
Wow. Sorry, I'm looking at you with kind of a shocked look, because I'm blown away. And I think that I understand now when I tell people my story and they have that response, now what they're feeling, because I'm used to being the one who's telling my story everywhere. And now I'm hearing it firsthand from somebody who's way past it now on the other side and just being super successful. It seems like as far as, you know, where you came from to now. I don't know what your future goals and aspirations are for, you know, for the remainder of your time on this earth, but just wow. Like, so you were in North Pole, not even 18 yet, already had a daughter.
I was 20. I was 20 at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had my daughter when I was 18. Yeah.
Okay. Still like,
yeah.
okay. So you're 20, had your daughter, get diagnosed with cervical cancer, lose a child, and then come back here and leave a terrible relationship. That's like, I mean, like the 1-2 punch that normally makes people crumble and fold and just abandon trying.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
That's good.
I've got a life to live and you know, a life to build for my daughter. And so
would you say that's what motivated you in that moment to leave that situation and go somewhere where you could get stability?
Undoubtedly. She's my reason to live.
Wow. That's awesome. So you came here after all of that and you said, I mean, you came here and you're just like, I need help. I need support.
Yeah.
What did that look like? Did you ever do housing with this program? Like, what did it look like from there?
Yeah. So I started out, I mean, it's kind of hard to remember, like that whole like repressed memories, like that is a true thing when you go through an extremely traumatic experience. I mean, it was not a great time. I got services and like food, and I didn't do housing. Michelle offered me a position as her assistant, and I was working part-time at the bank. So I would say that was probably like around 2016, 2017, just trying to like navigate through that and got healthy again and kind of tried to heal from that whole situation and, you know, get housing. And I lived with my mom for a little bit, and her boyfriend is pretty much the same age as me, so that became like an unsafe kind of situation. So I ended up homeless again. It was just it's so frustrating when you literally do everything you can and bust your butt to try and be successful, and it's just like sometimes like life just keeps throwing you punches. But I ended up going into housing at that point. Maybe 2017, 2018. And I lived in housing. It was the nicest place that I've ever lived in my life, which was very motivating to me.
Definitely.
It was a nice house, and it was fun to have roommates that weren't crazy or unsafe. That was nice. And then to have a safe place for my daughter. We lived in the bigger room because there's two of us. And gosh, that was so much fun. I loved it there. I loved living in housing and working for Michelle. She is an amazing person.
Yeah, definitely.
We have like most of the time we're on the same wavelength, and it was so much fun to work with the programs, the different kind of programs that we were going through, the grant writing, the different projects. I miss it here so much. 2020 and 21 were just super lame. I kind of like, in 2019 is when I left here to start teaching, and I wouldn't say that I regret it. I think it was a great choice. I had to feel it out because that's what I was going to school for, is early childhood development.
Okay.
But yeah, I got lost in that.
No, this is exactly what we like. So I want to focus on something that you went over for just a minute. You said it's very frustrating when you're working your butt off and you keep getting these moments. I don't remember exactly what you said after that, but you're experiencing homelessness again after you work so hard not to be. I believe that through conversations I've had with people in the community and even before working here, that there is a really like incorrect stigma attached to homeless youth, especially young people. And that stigma that I hear most of the time is that, oh, they just don't want to follow the rules. They just don't want to do anything. They're just lazy, especially the generations older tend to say that. Yeah. But what I just heard you say was you were doing everything in your power to move forward and be successful, and you kept hitting boundaries that were outside of your control.
Yeah. And I think that happens often, and it is a really frustrating stigma, especially when you look at like teens below the age of 18, which was, again, frustrating. I don't know another word for it, because at 14 is when I left home because it was unsafe. And my parents had got divorced. My mom found this boyfriend. My dad was having some issues too. And it was just like from 14 to 18, I was homeless that whole time, and I had no resources. I can't work without a work permit. Can't get a driver's license without my parents signing off on it. I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I can't work without a work permit, can't sign a lease, can't buy a car. And it's like, okay, so we have a 14-year-old and society expects them to just not be homeless,
Right.
but we have no resources for them to not be homeless. And it's just, I just don't understand. I guess people get so stuck living at this level that they can't think down at this level where you have no resources. It's not choosing to be homeless. It's choosing to do whatever you can to survive. And that's, it's just so frustrating that you could say a 14-year-old child is choosing to do drugs and be homeless. Like, that's not a choice.
Yeah.
That's the environment they were in. They were put in.
100% agree with you again. You know, I think that a lot of people have that stigma based on one or two bad experiences that they've had, or maybe they see a story or something that fuels that thought process. But you are 100% correct. I'm a case manager here. I'm over the males housing now. Every single person that's in the house currently, and all three houses that I manage, we have 3 men's houses now. Every single person in there is homeless due to a lack of resources. I think if I were to put a percentage to the population of 14 to 24 that my house deals with, in that entire age range, out of all of the people that are homeless in that demographic, I would maybe say 1 to 2% is because they just didn't want to follow rules at home. The other 99%, maybe even more than that, is because they were in a horrible situation and they couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
And how powerful of a statement is, I'd rather sleep outside
Exactly.
than be where I was at living.
Yeah. And in a majority of the time, especially when you look at male teenagers, right? Because there's also this stigma that men need to be strong and they can't be abused. And that's so frustrating, because I just will keep this it's so frustrating to me, because we have these expectations without any idea of how we're going to provide resources for them. And I mean, young men still experience the same kind of abuse in all of its forms as young women do. And I think that a lot of people don't experience this. They don't see it from this point of view. And so how can they not be judgmental? And I think it really comes down to sharing your stories and your experiences. Like, I mean, I don't know what your story is, but I'm sure that if we take the opportunity to talk with people and say, hey, this is the experience that I had, this was the lack of resources I had, and this is what my journey looked like. I would have not been successful if there wasn't an intervention in my life. Michelle.
Right.
If I didn't have that intervention and that confidence to say, hey, you can actually be someone, then I wouldn't have known that I could be someone. I wouldn't be where I am. And I think that having community members that are engaged and give kids a chance is really how we can change that stigma and change our community.
I think I just heard a challenge, and that challenge is to step outside of your stigma, step outside of your personal experience, and ask some questions next time you meet somebody struggling, and find out if you're right or if they really just need some help. The next question I want to ask you is, during that time, from the time you first met Michelle, 'cause, I mean, it's fair that you keep bringing her up. I mean, in the early days, it was Michelle. Like Michelle, without Michelle, this place wouldn't exist.
Undoubtedly.
So I think it's totally appropriate. Was there like a defining moment you had, or an aha moment, or just a moment where you gained traction and everything had led up into that point? Or perhaps just a moment that hit so strong that has stuck with you during your time at my house?
I think the most impactful situation that I had is when I got to work with Michelle, when I got to transition from being a client to being a staff member where I could help people. And I remember I think it was 2018, I had never left the state of Alaska, and I was Michelle's assistant, and we got to travel down to Ohio, and she got an award, and I can't remember what the award was. She's just an amazing person. So all of the awards, right?
All of them.
And she got to bring a family member, and she brought me. And she brought me, and I got to give her the award. And it was, I don't have words to explain. I felt valued, and I felt like I could be someone to someone important. And that was an experience that I hadn't had in life yet, that I didn't realize that I was valuable to anyone. And it was just, it's hard to put words. It was life-changing. It was really life-changing to know that I could be valued. And it helped me to be a better parent and a better person, to know how valuable it was for someone to express that you were important to them.
Hold the phone, Batman. Stop the press. So you mean to tell me that your most profound, life-changing moment that stuck with you, that impacted you, was feeling valued?
That is the most important thing.
I so strongly agree. And I truly believe it is why my house has functioned like it has and has had as much success as it has. To me, I've worked in a lot of different places, and I'll tell you right now, it is rare to find the director of any organization that would do what you just told me. Regardless of where it started, regardless of where we're at now, but somebody who cared about people is so much as to make you feel valued. Not just gave you job training, because that was great. Not just gave you housing. Of course, that was important. But the thing that stuck with you the most, it impacted you. And even me hearing it, it struck a chord in me to see how it impacted you. And I believe it's why my house is such a crucial part of this community. That is Michelle's, her mission statement is, we're a hand up, not a handout. But if there was another phrase you could attach to that, it would be that she values, she sees the demographic we work with as an asset to the community, not as a liability.
I completely agree with you. And it is amazing how many people she has lifted up. And I mean, I'm from the beginning, so I've got to see everyone that's had an opportunity to go from extreme poverty and understand that they don't have to live that way. And now they can be successful members of the community. And that's the whole environment. Like, I talk about Michelle a lot, but it is really the whole environment. Working with Roger, I know he's not in the building anymore, but he was when I was, and he worked with the 9-Star program. And everyone really comes together. It's a family. Like, this is a safe place. Back when we had the earthquake, this was the first place that I went.
Wow.
I didn't know where else to go. This was the place. This is home. And I think that's really impactful for a lot of kids, because you don't have home, and it's not the structure, it's the feeling. Like, this is home. I miss it here.
I can feel that as you're talking about this place.
Yeah.
I've heard Michelle tell so many stories, and she told, when I first started working here, she told me that when the earthquake happened, she had clients showing up, had no clue you were one of them, of course, because she didn't say who and whatever. she has shared so many profound stories, and still to this day, we're growing continually, and you can see that. You're still very much a part of my house. I want to say I was here about a month. Somebody came in to ask Michelle questions about how the organization worked. And one of the questions they asked her was, well, when do you discharge a client? When do you exit them? She said, we don't. And it blew my mind. Again, that thought that could it be that our community isn't suffering from lazy drug addicts? It's not suffering from youth who are rebellious. It's suffering from people, individuals who have had traumatic experiences and no support and know where they belong.
That's the thing, is not having a tribe, not having a place to operate in. And it's breathtaking in this journey with my house, because you start out in poverty and addiction, in that mindset, and it's so difficult to get out. And when you get out, you have to leave those people, because they're only going to not always, but a majority of the time, you're an alien. And I'm experiencing that now. I make more money than anyone that I am related to. I have a college degree. No one even graduated high school. I own property. Like there's so many different portions of my life that completely alienate me from my family. And it's hard. It's hard because they hate me for it. And it's lonely. It's a lonely journey to get out of that. Because then how? Who are you supposed to associate with? Who do you call and say, I did this thing that was great? You don't get, I'm so excited for you. You get, well, this and this and this could go wrong. Or how could you do that? Or how can I benefit from you doing that? And this is a place where you can come in and say, I got the property. I did it. I graduated from college. I did it. And you get, good job. Congratulations. We're so excited for you. They throw graduation parties. These are the little things that inspire your heart to keep going. And if you don't have that, how do you expect someone to keep trying? It's hard. It's hard. It's so hard, but it's so worth it. And this is a place where you can be, it's like a family. It's like a home.